January 4th, 2010. This is the start of Volume 1, Disc 1 of the videotaped deposition of Scott Price, Ph.D., in the matter of Bibby Financial Services, California, Inc. versus Glendale Unified School District of Los Angeles County, et al. Case pending in the Superior Court of the State of California for the County of Los Angeles, North Central District. Case number LC 085094. This deposition is taking place at 27240 Turnberry Lane, Suite 200, Valencia, California, and is being videotaped on behalf of the plaintiff. My name is Frank Kapp, the Certified Legal Video Specialist with Charles Heller and Company, located in Los Angeles, California. Today's court reporter is Sally Lefton with Lefton Court Reporters, located in Torrance, California. Counsel and all present, please introduce yourselves and state your appearances.
Richard Weiner on behalf of plaintiff.
Nancy DeWanian for defendant.
Scott Price.
The witness may be sworn in.
Can you place your right hand to be sworn? Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this deposition shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Can you please state your full name?
Scott Sheridan Price.
And you are you have a PhD, is that correct?
Correct.
And in what particular area?
Educational policy and administration.
For purposes of today, I'll refer to you as Dr. Price, if that's acceptable.
That's fine. Thank you.
Have you ever had your deposition taken before?
Once before.
And how long ago was that?
10, 12 years ago.
Did it have anything to do with the school district?
No.
Okay. And have you had a chance to meet with your attorney, Ms. Domanian, before appearing here today?
Yes, I have.
Okay. At the risk of repeating something that she may have shared with you, I'd like to go over some admonitions concerning this deposition and the process, hopefully help it make a little bit more smooth today. The individual to my left, to your right, is a certified shorthand court reporter. During the course of this deposition, I will be asking you questions. You'll be providing answers to those questions. Your attorney may have some objections or statements or even questions on the record. Everything said in this room will be taken down by the court reporter and pursuant to the videographer. Do you understand?
Yes.
Despite the fact that we're in my conference room in my office, the oath that you have taken has the same force and effect and subjects you to the same penalties of perjury as if you were actually sitting in a court of law in front of a judge and/or a jury. You understand?
Yes.
At the end of this proceeding, a booklet will be made up. It'll be question and answer format. You'll have a chance to read and review all of your testimony and make any changes or corrections that you feel are appropriate or necessary. You can't change my questions, but if you feel the need to do so, you can change your answers. Do you understand?
Yes.
I must caution you, however, if you do decide to make any changes, particularly of a substantial nature, then I or others will be entitled to comment at a later time, such as a hearing, in connection with a motion, or even at trial, saying you told one story today and you're telling another story later. The whole moral of that story and the admonition is to try to give your best testimony today. Do you understand?
Yes.
I don't want you to guess today, and I know your attorney doesn't want you to guess. I don't want you to speculate. If you have some basis in fact to give me an answer, I'm entitled to that. If you do not have any basis in fact, and it would be a complete guess, then please simply tell me, I don't know. That's perfectly acceptable. Do you understand the difference between a guess and some basis in fact to give an answer?
Yes.
Okay. If you do answer, I'm going to assume that you heard my question, that you understood my question, and that your answer is in direct response to my question. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay. Anytime you need to take a break, please just let me know. Anytime you'd like to speak with your attorney, let me know. Of course, in my as far as I'm concerned, if there's a question pending, I would like you to answer the question before you ask to go off the record. That's something that your attorney may or may not agree with, but for the record, if there's a question pending, I'd like an answer before we go off. Have you reviewed any documents in preparation for today's deposition?
No, I have not.
Okay. Other than your attorney, and let me just put this on the record right now, any communications you had with Ms. Domanian or any other attorney relating to this case I am not entitled to, nor am I seeking or do I want. So if there's any question that I ask, please exclude any communications that you've had with your attorneys. Is that agreed?
Yes.
Okay. Anytime you need to take a break, again, let me know. Have you talked with anybody, excluding any attorneys, about coming here to be deposed today?
No.
Okay. Did you have any discussions with Mike Lee about his deposition?
No.
Did you have any discussions with Teresa McGinnis about her deposition?
No.
Okay. Are you currently employed?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me who you employed by?
Yes. Glendale Unified School District.
If I refer to it as GUSD, you'll know I'm referring to Glendale Unified School District?
Yes.
Okay. And how long have you been employed by GUSD?
6 years almost.
And has your title and responsibilities been the same for the last 6 years?
No.
All right. When you were first hired by GUSD, what were you hired as?
Director of ETIS, which is Educational Technology and Instructional Services.
And could you just give me a brief description of what that is?
It's the Director of Technology for the school district.
And then at some point, did your title and responsibilities change?
Yes.
When did that happen?
After I'd been at the district 3 years.
And what did your title change to after 3 years at the district?
Administrator of Business Services.
And is that your current title?
Yes.
All right. So you for the last 3 years, you have held the title of Administrator of Business Services. Is that correct?
Yes.
And has your job responsibilities as Administrator of Business Services been the same for the last 3 years?
Yes.
Could you please describe those for me?
Yes. I'm in charge of purchasing, I'm in charge of the warehouse, and in charge of energy management.
Do part of your responsibilities and duties as Administrator of Business Services include anything related to security services for the district?
Not directly.
All right. If you could explain to me, if not directly, indirectly, if you could please explain.
If there are problems at the school site with security, then the principals will call me.
Can you explain how is it set up that for any issues with security, you are the one to call?
No. If there's any problem that is not solved by a gentleman, if there's any problem that's not solved at the site level or by instructional services, which have the first line, then it comes to me.
Okay. So if you could explain to me the hierarchy with respect to security services for the district, from the bidding process to overseeing in the district, how is that handled?
I was in charge of the bidding process and the contract.
For the last 3 years?
Yes.
And what about for overseeing the security services once they're retained as a vendor for the district? Who oversees their services at the district?
The principals at the site. There's a gentleman named Hank Paz that's in instructional services that takes care of problems if it goes past there, and then if there's any other problems, it would come to me.
Does Hank Paz have a title? Is that P-A-Z?
Yes.
Does he have a title?
Director of Student Services, I believe.
And do you know a Mike Livingston?
Yes.
Who's Mike Livingston?
He is a former assistant principal at Crescenta Valley High School.
And a Charlotte Sassonian, Sassonian,
Assistant principal.
at the same school?
I believe Charlotte is, I believe at Glendale. I believe it's at Glendale High School.
Okay. And do you, who do you report to at the district?
I report to Eva Luke.
And that's Lueck?
Yes.
And what's Ms. Luke's title?
Chief Business and Financial Officer.
Does Ms. Luke at any time become involved in anything relating to security services?
No.
You're aware that we're here in connection with the issue involving SB Security and Patrol and payments made by the district, including to my client, Bibby Financial, correct?
Yes.
Did Eva Luke have any involvement, directly or indirectly, relating to the issues involved in this lawsuit?
No.
Are you familiar with a Carl Warren and Company?
Yes.
Who's Carl Warren and Company?
They are a company that handles our liability.
Do you know a Harold Collins?
Yes.
Who is Harold Collins?
Harold Collins works for Ingram Security.
Did Harold Collins ever work for SB Security and Patrol?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And do you know a Michelle Daniels?
Yes, I do.
How do you know Michelle?
Michelle came to the bid opening for when we went out to bid for the contract.
For security services.
Correct.
And do you know how Michelle is affiliated with SB?
Michelle works in the office. What she does there, I don't know.
Okay. Did you have any understanding as to who was the ultimate decision maker, the top person at SB?
Michelle Daniels came as the person representing SB to the bid, and there was Michael Knott who owned the security license for that company.
Did you have an understanding as who was the ultimate decision maker at SB?
I never asked that question.
Okay. Do you know a Tyrone Eaton?
Yes, I do.
And how do you know Tyrone Eaton?
Tyrone worked for SB and now with Ingram.
Do you know what Tyrone's position is with Ingram?
I believe she is one of the proprietors.
And are you familiar with a Rendwick, R-E-N-D-W-I-C-K, Ingram?
I have met Renwick.
And who is Renwick Ingram?
He is part of Ingram Security.
And did Renwick at one time work for SB Security and Patrol?
I do not believe so.
And who has the security license for Ingram?
It's on the website. I have to go back and refer to it.
Okay.
On the state website.
As you sit here today, you don't have a recollection?
I don't have a recollection.
Okay. Council, as we did with yesterday, I'd like to refer to Exhibit 1 to the deposition of Teresa McGinnis. So it's the documents that your office produced in response to a demand for production of documents in this case. And as opposed to duplicating those again, I'd like to refer to those in Dr. Price's deposition. Is that agreed?
Right, you asked me to bring him. Which page did you want him to look at?
I'd like to look at page 265 and 266, please. And for the record, when I refer to Exhibit 1, I am at all times referring to Exhibit 1 to the deposition of Teresa McGinnis, as opposed to just for brevity, I'll just refer to it as Exhibit 1 today. Sir, do you have that in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Take a moment to look at it.
Yeah, me too.
Let's take a moment to stuff.
Okay.
It's simple.
For the record, pages 265 and 266 is on letterhead of SB Security and Patrol. It's referred to as meeting minutes, Glendale Unified School District Security Guard Services, September 21st, 2007. Just let me know after you've had a chance
Yeah,
to look
sorry,
at
I'm
that.
reading right now. I just, sorry. Okay.
Have you ever seen these meeting minutes before?
I don't recall, but they're here, yes, so,
Okay, for purposes of today,
yes.
when I hand you a document,
Uh-huh.
because it appears that you may have seen it, for purposes of today, I need to know your best recollection today. And if today you look at a document, and although in your mind you say to yourself, you know, I probably should have seen this, or I probably did see this, but I don't know if I did or not, it's really appropriate to tell me, you know, I probably should have seen it, but it's sitting here today, I don't remember. If that's the case, just tell me. But if you have some basis in recollection or fact that say, you know what, it looks familiar, or yeah, I did see it, just let me know whatever it is, and we'll just make sure that we have your actual recollection today.
One of the ground rules, Dr. Price, is if you look at something and it doesn't refresh your memory, it's okay to say you don't know or you don't remember. He'll ask you follow-up. Okay?
Right.
So when you get a document, take a moment, look at it, let us know when you're done.
Okay.
And read it to yourself. Otherwise, the court reporter has to take down everything you say when you read it to yourself. Okay?
Okay. I don't remember.
Do you recall that an actual meeting that occurred in or about September of 2007 where there was in essence, an introduction of SB Security and Patrol as the new security services for the district?
I don't remember a specific meeting, but we had meetings to introduce the new company.
There's, in attendees, there's a reference here to Renwick Ingram under SB. Do you see that?
Yes, I do.
Does that in any way refresh your recollection that Renwick Ingram was a part of SB at that time?
You know, I don't remember.
Okay. And also, in the minutes, it indicates that you introduced Mr. Collins, and you were reiterating that Mr. Collins was the most important factor in SB selection. Is that true?
Yes, it is.
Why is that?
Because of his experience as an LAUSD policeman.
Did you know Mr. Collins before the bidding process for SB?
No, I did not.
You met Mr. Collins in the bidding process?
Yes, I did.
Do you know if Tyrone Eaton had any connections at the district before the bid process?
No. No, she did not.
Do you have any responsibility in connection with the accounts payable department at GUSD?
No, I do not.
Do you know a Teresa McGinnis?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And when did you first meet Teresa McGinnis?
When I began working for the school district.
Approximately 6 years ago.
Yes.
And what was your understanding as to who Teresa McGinnis was
She
with
was,
the district?
Right. She is accounts payable clerk.
And during the last 6 years, have you had any involvement in connection with the way that payments are made to vendors by GUSD?
No, I do not.
At some point, did you learn that GUSD was making payments to Bibby Financial for services being provided to the district by SB Security and Patrol?
Mike Lee came to me, said that he had received letters and did not know what to do, said there was some sort of an issue, and that was the first time that I'd seen the name Bibby.
And can you tell me approximately when that was?
I don't remember.
There, I can represent to you that there was an email sent to Mr. Lee on October 20th, 2008. With that representation, does that give you any, does that help you and refresh you in any way as to when Mr. Lee came to you indicating that he had received letters?
I couldn't give you a time frame.
Please don't get disrespectful.
Yeah.
If I said to you the fourth quarter of 2008, would you be comfortable with identifying that the period of time that Mr. Lee came to you? Again, I don't want you to guess.
Right. I don't remember.
Were you able to say whether it was sometime in 2008?
I don't remember.
2009?
I don't know in what time frame.
Okay. Was it in 2010?
No.
Okay, so we're definitely not 2010. But are you able to limit it down to either 2008 or 2009?
Don't get disrespectful.
No, I don't know. I don't know.
As to when
I don't
Mr.
remember.
Lee came to you?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay. Are you aware that Ms. McGinnis is no longer employed by GUSD?
Yes, I am.
Do you know when that occurred?
It was. I don't know the exact date. No, I don't. I don't remember.
Do you have a time frame that you could give me with respect to that you understand when Ms. McGinnis was no longer employed by GUSD?
I believe it's been in the last 2 years, so I believe. I don't know whether it's a year or 2 years. It's right in there. So, but I don't know the date.
Okay. When Mr. Lee came to you,
Yes.
that is the first time you had ever heard the name Bibby Financial?
Yes, it is.
And do you know why Mr. Lee came to you in connection with him having an issue or a problem? I'm not sure exact words you used, that there was something going on with respect to these letters he received, Mr. Lee.
He came in and said he had a company that was calling him, talking about invoices, and that had received something from a lawyer. So he came to me.
Do you know why Mr. Lee came to you, as opposed to somebody else at GUSD?
Because I deal with the contracts. I'm purchasing contracts.
And did Mr. Lee show you any documents?
I don't recall.
Did Mr. Lee show you any of these letters that he had received?
I don't recall.
Let me show you what's been marked as Exhibit 34 to both the deposition of Teresa McGinnis and Mr. Lee. And you have that document in front of you. It's a letter on my letterhead, Law Office of Richard L. Weiner, dated September 17, 2008, to the attention of Teresa McGinnis.
I see the letter, but...
Excuse me, is this the one we identified yesterday, Mike Lee's? I thought it was, this was attached to your email of October 20th, 2008.
That is a separate document inside Exhibit 1.
Okay.
This is a separate exhibit.
We marked this yesterday? Okay.
Yes.
I didn't remember. Take a moment, look at it.
Right.
Let us know when you're done. I think it's the same letter. One was just attached to the email. This is the actual copy of the letter. Okay.
There are multiple documents here. Am I
Yeah.
supposed to be reading
Well, you know
multiple
what?
documents?
That's a good question. Let's, why don't you ask the question and we'll see.
Okay. Just for the record, as we identified yesterday, Exhibit 34, Bait stamp numbers at the bottom, 53 through 55 is the letter. Bait stamp 56 is a facsimile transmission sheet. Bait stamp number 57 is a transmission verification report for the fax. Number 53 is a receipt for certified mail, and 59 and 60 is the email that was sent enclosing or pasting in a copy of the letter of September 17, 2008. Dr. Price, as a part of Exhibit 34, the first 3 pages, do you recall having seen these documents prior to today?
I have seen these documents prior to today.
Okay. The first time that you saw the first 3 pages of Exhibit 34, was that when Mr. Lee came and talked to you and said he had received letters from an attorney, or the district had received letters?
I don't recall what Mike Lee brought to me, but as soon as we know an attorney is involved, I immediately called counsel. But I don't know which of these documents it was. If he brought me documents, came in and said that we have an issue, there's an attorney involved, and I said, okay, we'll call our attorney.
Again, do you recall when Mr. Lee, or strike that, when do you first recall seeing the first 3 pages of Exhibit 34?
I don't remember.
Is there anything that you could look at that would refresh your recollection, either notes in a calendar or any document or anything you could look at that would refresh your recollection as to when you first saw the first 3 pages of Exhibit 34?
Not that I can think of.
Did you see the first 3 pages of Exhibit 34 before or after you called your attorney?
I don't remember.
If you can turn to what's bait stamp number at the bottom, 58 of Exhibit 34, it's a receipt for certified mail. Do you see that?
Yes,
58.
I think
Yes.
it's 58.
And there's a signature in the top right-hand corner. Do you see that?
Yes.
Can you tell whose signature that is?
No, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what he's referring to.
Yeah,
That does
I
not
don't
look
know.
familiar to you?
I'm trying to make it out. I don't know.
How many meetings did you have more than one meeting with Mr. Lee regarding the issue with SB and payments made?
As soon as he told me there was an attorney involved, I called the attorney, and then
Don't get into our discussions.
Yeah. Then I called the attorney, and Nancy started working on the case.
Okay. Did you have any meetings other than that when Mr. Lee first came to you? Did you have any other meetings involving you and Mr. Lee without counsel?
As soon as an attorney is involved, we call our attorney. So the answer is no.
Okay. The reason I ask is yesterday I took the deposition of Mr. Lee, and Mr. Lee identified that he had approximately 5 to 10 meetings with you relating to this issue not involving Ms. Dumanian or any attorney. Is that not your recollection?
Anything dealing with an attorney coming, we talk to our attorneys. So in regards to your firm or otherwise, it's with counsel.
Okay, so could you repeat the question? If you could just listen carefully to the question and respond to that, please.
The reason I ask is yesterday I took the deposition of Mr. Lee, and Mr. Lee identified that he had had approximately 5 to 10 meetings with you relating to this issue, not involving Ms. Dumanian or any attorney. Is that not your recollection?
I don't know that it was carved out that didn't involve me, but go ahead if you recall that, Dr. Price.
Well, of course, we have to talk without an attorney present to say what is going on. So, I mean, we talked about it, of course.
Okay, do you recall how many times Mr. Lee and you talked about the issue involving SB and the payments made to Bibby Financial?
I mean, I don't know. I don't recall.
Was it more than one meeting?
I don't recall.
Did you engage in any type of fact-finding inquiry relating to what actually occurred with payments being made for services provided by SB?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell me what you did in connection with this fact-finding inquiry?
Yes, we tried to figure out if there was, we wanted to know who Bibby was. We had no idea who Bibby was.
And did you determine who Bibby was?
We started asking questions and
Don't get into anything we discussed, so you need to
right,
exclude that.
that's the problem. I don't know what we discussed or what we, so.
Okay, well, I want to caution you, Dr. Price, you can't get into anything that we discussed or discussions at which I was present.
Right.
And you need to separate those in your mind. And if you can't, then you need to let Mr. Wiener know that, because what we discussed is off limits.
Right.
Yeah. I'm referring to the fact-finding inquiry that you made, Dr. Price.
But you didn't establish it wasn't through me. So that's I think that's his reluctance. Again, same cautionary instruction, Dr. Price, don't get into anything we discussed, what I tell you to do, not to do. That's all off limits. That's attorney-client.
Let me ask you this, Dr. Price. Did you conduct an internal fact-finding inquiry at any time.
Outside of any discussions with me or things done at my direction?
Whether they were done at your direction or not is irrelevant. What I'm asking you, sir, is that what you did internally at GUSD in connection with any fact-finding inquiry. I'm not asking if anybody told you to do it. I'm just asking what you did.
No, well, if he did something at my direction, that would be attorney-client privilege. He can't answer that.
Actually, counsel, that's not true. There's no communication I'm seeking. If there was something that Dr. Price actually did internally,
Right.
I'm entitled to that. I'm not asking for any communication that he had from you.
Okay, but if he did it at my direction, that would be a communication. He can answer that question. Outside of any discussions with me or directions from me, he can answer.
That's actually not the standard, but if, we'll do what we can today to try
Mr.
to
Weiner,
work through it.
this has been my client for 19 years. When a lawyer sends us a letter of representation, I'm immediately contacted. Okay, that's the protocol. So he's telling you he's having a hard time because I don't want him to get into privileged communication. I'm asking you to limit your question to what did he do outside of anything I instructed him to do or I talked to him about. And those would be off limit. I mean, it's the purest form of attorney-client.
Actually, I disagree, counsel.
Well,
But
then he can't answer the question
well,
unless you limit it.
We'll take it question by question, and you'll do what you feel is appropriate.
Okay, fine.
Can you describe for me, Dr. Price, what internal investigation you actually did, what steps you took internally at GUSD in connection with this inquiry about SB and payments being made to Bibby Financial?
Outside of any discussions you had with me or things you did at my direction, you can answer that question.
Right. So as soon as I called Nancy,
Don't get into our discussion.
Okay. Right.
Outside of that, if there's something outside of that, he's entitled to that. But please don't get into things you and I talked about. That's off limits.
If it helps at all, what I'm referring to, did you talk to Teresa McGinnis? Did you go down to the accounts payable department? Did you review any documents in accounts payable? Did you talk with anybody in the county as to how the payments or payables work? I'm just throwing things out as to specifics as to what fact-finding inquiry you may have done. I don't know what you did. That's why I'm asking you, sir.
I called Ms. Dumanian.
I don't want to know about
yeah.
anything about Ms. Dumanian. What I want to know internally at GUSD, Ms. Dumanian is an outside attorney, correct?
Correct.
I'm not asking about Ms. Dumanian. I'm asking about what you did internally at the GUSD in any fact-finding inquiry to find out what happened. What did you do?
I followed the direction of my attorney.
Then don't get into that.
Yeah.
You can't tell me anything specifically you did as to a fact-finding inquiry internally at GUSD.
Okay, that's not what he said.
Well,
It's hard to answer your question
well,
without him telling you what I directed him to do.
Actually, it's not, counsel.
It
because
is.
if you said, for example, hypothetically, if you said to Dr. Price, Dr. Price, I want you to go down to accounts payable, I want you to pull the files, I want you to investigate, and let's find out what happened.
Right.
I'm not asking for that. It doesn't matter. Dr. Price, without divulging any attorney-client privilege, can say to me, I went down to accounts payable, I reviewed the files, I determined this, this, and this. That is not, as a matter of law, a violation of the attorney-client privilege. And if that's your position, then that is your position, and we'll just mark it. We'll go to law in motion, and we'll come back.
Let me
That's
see if
fine.
I could simplify it, because he's telling you, without effecting a waiver of anything, once he's on notice of your letter, I am then brought in, and whatever direction or instruction I tell him to do would be privileged. And obviously there were discussions between us which are privileged. So if he tells you, after I talked to Nancy, hypothetically, I went and did X, Y, Z, he'd be telling you what I told him to do. And then you're getting to the heart. Can't you just ask him, outside of anything you had, discussions you had with Nancy, or direction she gave you, did you do any, whatever you call it, fact-finding? That's fair game. But you can't get into what I tell him to do. That's not just attorney-client, it's work product. I already got your letter. You were emailing me. I mean, it's not like you and I were ghosts to one another, Richard. I mean, I don't know what's funny, but...
What's funny, and it's not funny, I'm just I was grinning about the fact that you've repeated exactly what you just said, and I understand your position.
Right.
My position is that you are broadening the attorney-client privilege to a place that it does not go to. That I am not asking,
Okay.
again, and I don't want to repeat what I just said, so I won't.
Okay.
But my question stands at what it is. I'm not asking for any communications you've had with your attorney. I don't want to know what she directed you to do. Please don't tell me what Ms. Dominion directed you to do. What I want to know is what you actually did internally at Glendale Unified School District in your fact-finding inquiry to determine what happened.
How?
That is, as a matter of law, discoverable. It is not a communication of any type with an attorney, and I'm asking internally what you did. If you're going to instruct him, then please do so. We'll just move on, and we'll deal with it.
I think the fundamental question you should be asking is, did you do any investigation or take any steps to investigate this outside of any discussion or direction from your lawyer? And then if he says yes, that's fair game. But if he tells you what he did as a result of our conversation, then you're getting to the heart of our discussion.
You know what, counsel?
I'm missing it. I'm just not understanding
Okay,
you. I'm
but-
trying.
Well, I'm trying as well, and I'm trying to find out what Dr. Price actually did as a fact-finding inquiry to determine what happened.
Right,
I'm not
and if I
asking him
tell
about
him-
enemy communication. Counsel, please don't repeat it again. I understand.
Okay, well then
So
you can't
if-
answer that question.
All right,
Raised. That's fine.
okay. And Dr. Price, are you refusing to answer?
I'll
Based on
stipulate
your-
he will do that each time. In the interest of time, he will follow my advice.
Okay, and that's agreed, Dr. Price?
I will follow my attorney's counsel.
Okay, that's fine. Sally, if you could mark that. Did you engage in any fact-finding inquiry outside of any direction or discussions you had with your attorney?
No.
Okay. Can you tell me, in connection with any fact-finding inquiry you engaged in, what did you conclude as to what happened with respect to the payables being made in connection with services provided by SB?
Sorry, can you read that back to me, please?
Can you tell me, in connection with any fact-finding inquiry you engaged in, what did you conclude as to what happened with respect to the payables being made in connection with services provided by SB?
Outside of any discussions with me, you can answer that.
Outside of any discussions with the attorney, no.
Well, Dr. Price, you engaged in a fact-finding inquiry. You made some determinations based on what your fact-finding inquiry. If you later called your attorney to share those, I'm not asking about that. What I'm asking about is you conducted a fact-finding inquiry. You made certain conclusions based on your fact-finding inquiry. That's what I'm asking about. I'm not asking what you told your attorney.
He never said he did that.
Right.
We can read it, but I don't think he said that.
I believe he did say he did a fact-finding inquiry.
No, you asked him if he did an investigation or fact-finding inquiry outside of any discussions or direction of his attorney, and he said no.
Yeah, but no, counsel, earlier I had asked, did you do any fact-finding inquiry? And he said yes.
Before calling the lawyer, no.
No, I understand that.
Right.
But after calling your lawyer, you engaged in a fact-finding inquiry internally at Glendale Unified School District, correct?
Okay, I'll simplify it. I'm not going to let him get into any of that, because you're
I-
getting to the heart of my direction to him and my counsel to him, and I'm not going to waive the privilege or work product as to that. You're involved, you're threatening litigation, there's advice I give my client in anticipation of litigation, and here we are. He's not going to get into that. So same objection, same instruction.
Okay.
Don't answer that question as phrased.
As to whether you did, I'm not asking what it is, I'm asking whether he did.
Same. It's potato, Richard, same thing. I think it's just a different way of asking the same question.
Actually, it's not. I'm not asking what the fact-finding inquiry is. I'm asking if, in fact, he did. If he did, then we can have a law in motion on that issue.
Richard,
If he didn't do any fact-finding inquiry
Right.
at any time, then there's no issue. So you're not, and just for the record, you are refusing to allow him to answer whether he, in fact, even did a fact-finding inquiry relating to this issue. Are you refusing to let him answer that?
My objection stands to the question you asked.
I'm asking this question. Are you refusing to allow Dr. Price to answer the question about whether he, in fact, did a fact-finding inquiry?
Yes.
Okay. did you have any discussions with Mr. Lee outside of the presence of your attorney?
Yes.
Okay, can you tell me in those relating to this issue involving the payments made in connection with services provided by SB Security and Patrol to the district, correct?
I'm sorry, the question again?
The communications you had with Mr. Lee that I'm referring to are the ones relating to the services provided by SB to the district and the payments made.
Yes, the first time Mike Lee came to me, he said, we have something from a lawyer.
All right, and did you have any other discussions with Mr. Lee outside the presence of your attorney relating to this issue?
Asked and answered. You can answer it again.
I'm sorry?
You can answer it again.
Yes. Yes, we did.
Okay, can you tell me to the best of your recollection what you said to Mr. Lee and what Mr. Lee said to you in these discussions?
They were I believe under the earlier definition, this is...
Okay, outside of any discussions with me or discussions between the two of you where I was present, he's entitled to ask you. So outside of me, you can answer the question if you can. So go ahead. Do you understand that instruction, Dr. Price?
So
you have to exclude any discussion where I was present, whether in person, over the phone, however, or anytime I talk to the both of you. Those are off limits. So just you and Mike alone talking. He's entitled to ask you about what you talked about. You testified earlier. I think
Correct.
he asked you about Mike Lee's testimony, and you recalled testimony.
Yeah.
So I think he's following up to that area.
okay. So
You can answer.
right. Yes. Sorry, give me the question again. So
Sure, no
we
problem.
had discussions with Mike
Or can you tell me to the best of your recollection what you said to Mike and what Mike said to you?
We were trying to gain information on, once again, who was Bibby, who we wanted to understand what was happening.
And in these discussions, did you share with each other an understanding as to who Bibby Financial was?
Outside of the discussions of the lawyer, we did not discuss that.
Okay. In these discussions you had with Mike Lee, not in the presence of Ms. Dumanian, you never discussed as to who Bibby Financial was?
Under the instructions, how do I do this?
Don't. If you had any discussions outside of me or things I directed you to do, he's entitled to that. Outside of those things.
Outside of your direction.
If it falls within that, then you need to tell him it would have involved Nancy, and then he understands that's off limits.
And
I
if it
can't
involves your
segregate,
direction.
then you can't get into that.
If you and Mike Lee are sitting in an office together, and Ms. Dumanian is not on the phone and is not present, and you are discussing what's going on, I'm entitled to what you discussed as a matter of law. So that's what I'm asking you about. You're sitting in, you're discussing this issue involving SB, Bibby Financial payments, and I'm asking you, in these discussions with Mike Lee, did you discuss who Bibby Financial was?
Yes.
And did you come to an understanding in these discussions and share with each other an understanding as to who Bibby Financial was?
Yes.
And who were they?
A
to your
factoring
understanding?
company, from what I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is your understanding of a factoring company?
A factoring company is someone who buys receivables, from what I understand.
Okay. Did you understand that Bibby bought the receivables of SB Security and Patrol?
I did not.
In these meetings with Mike Lee, did you discuss whether Bibby had purchased or had the rights to the receivables of SB Security and Patrol?
Not before talking to my lawyer.
No, I understand not
attorney.
before. I'm talking
Outside of me.
in
Did you
these
talk with
private
Mike about
meetings
that?
with Mike Lee and you, did you discuss whether Bibby had actually the rights to the receivables of SB Security and Patrol?
Well, we discussed it, but I always referred back to my lawyer to say, is there some sort of
Don't
plan?
get into
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
discussions.
Right.
He just wants to know what you and Mike discussed, if you talked about that subject. He can ask you that.
Right. Yes, we talked about it.
And what did you share with each other about that issue?
That we're not legal experts.
Did you
Hold on a second before you ask your next
Excuse
question.
me.
Take a quick break.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you agree to go off record, Council?
Yes, we're off
Okay,
record.
we're going off the record, and the time is 11:33 a.m. It's 11:38 a.m.
Okay, we're back on the record. I will withdraw my objection to the question you asked him about fact-finding, and if you want to follow up on this inquiry, with the cautionary instruction, Dr. Price, I don't get into anything we discussed, but Mr. Wieners are allowed to ask you about your discussions with Mike Lee outside of my presence in this fact-finding. So if you want to ask that question, I'll withdraw the objection. He understands my instruction.
Okay. Dr. Price, can you tell me what fact-finding inquiry you had done internally at GUSD in connection with the services provided by SB and the payments made for those services?
We started looking for any invoices that had been sent, trying to figure out, getting any information we could on what had been happening with the account, and so we could try to find out what had happened.
When you say we, is that referring to Mike Lee and you?
Mike went and asked Teresa for the documents. I went, asked Teresa for documents.
You did as well?
Yeah.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Just for nature of the deposition process,
I
normal.
understand, yes.
Okay, thank you. Did you have a face-to-face conversation with Teresa
Yes.
McGinnis? More than one?
Yes.
How many?
Oh, I don't know.
Were any of these conversations recorded or notes made?
No.
All right. Can you tell me, to the best of your recollection, what you said to Teresa and what Teresa McGinnis said to you?
I asked for invoices, past invoices, asked her what she knew.
And what did Teresa tell you?
She told me that well, she gave me invoices, and she said that Bibby had been calling, and that she had gotten some sort of a email or letter or something, and that had gone to Mike also, and then Mike came to me.
Did Miss
Wait, hold on. That was, I mean, was the recounting of, I mean, basically the conversations.
Okay.
So,
Did Teresa McGinnis tell you that payments from GUSD had been made with Bibby as a payee for services provided by SB?
she did.
Okay. Did you independently confirm whether that statement was true, that GUSD was making payments with Bibby Financial as a payee for services provided by SB?
We started pulling the checks to see. So we asked her to pull checks.
Okay, when you said we, who was we?
Mike and I.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you pull all the checks relating to payments made for services provided by SB?
We did.
And what did you find?
You know, I don't have them here in front of me, but we found that there had been checks made to Bibby.
Do you know how many?
I don't recall. Don't recall.
Do you know over what period of time payments were made by GUSD to with Bibby as a payee?
I do not recall.
Did you come to an understanding with Mike as to why Bibby was receiving these payments?
We looked for any documents that we could find, and you know, so we looked at what had happened, tried to figure out what had happened by asking Teresa what had happened.
And did you ultimately come to an understanding as to what had happened?
Teresa told us that Tyrone Eaton had come in, asked her to start making checks out to Bibby.
And did you determine anything else?
Teresa said she'd started doing it.
And then at some point, did Teresa McGinnis say that she stopped making payments with Bibby as a payee?
By the time that was already after we'd received communication and gotten our lawyer involved, so she would not have done that. That was after. No, she did not make the change from Bibby back to SB. If that's what you're asking. Is that, can you tell me what you're asking?
You don't understand the question?
Yeah, can you repeat that?
Sally, could you
I want to make sure I
my
understand.
question?
Yeah, that's right.
And then at some point, did Teresa McGinnis say that she stopped making payments with Bibby as a payee?
It wasn't in these conversations. In fact-finding, the decision to stop making Bibby as a payee was our decision, my decision.
Okay, and why did you make that decision?
Under advice of counsel.
Okay. At the time you made, and do you know when you made the decision, when you, Dr. Price, made the decision on behalf of GUSD to cease making payments to Bibby Financial, is that correct?
He can't, hold on. That's a question?
Yes.
I didn't understand it. Can you read that back again?
Do you know when you made the decision, when you, Dr. Price, made the decision on behalf of GUSD to cease making payments to Bibby Financial? Is that correct?
Can you rephrase it?
Sure, I'll rephrase it.
I don't understand that.
First of all, Dr. Price, did you, on behalf of GUSD, make the decision for GUSD to stop making payments to Bibby Financial as a payee for services provided by SB Security and a patrol to the district?
Okay, don't answer that question. It's attorney-client privilege. You can't answer that question.
I'm not asking for any attorney-client communication. I'm asking that on behalf of Glendale Unified School District, a decision was made to stop making payments to Bibby Financial as a payee for services provided by SB to Glendale Unified School District. Are you refusing to allow him to answer that?
He just said on the advice of counsel, right? So you're asking him the basis of the decision.
No,
He's
I'm
already
not.
told you.
I'm not asking the basis.
His answer was at the advice of counsel, and I know I heard that.
And
Hold on. Let's just take a break.
Again, hold on. Let me just state for the record, I object to leaving. There's a question pending, and I understand you are getting up and leaving. So we are off the record.
We're not leaving.
I mean,
Second of all, I objected and instructed him not to answer, so there isn't a question pending. So if you want to be accurate, then be accurate, Richard, okay? And, you know, be accurate in your record.
I am accurate.
And we're not leaving, by the way, we're just stepping
I'm
out.
objecting to you stepping out of the room with a question pending.
No.
Right. And we're not going off the record, is that correct?
No, we'll go up.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're going off the record, and the time is 11:46 a.m.
Objection to the question. It's vague and ambiguous. There are 2 points in time where Bibby is removed as a payee. What he's talking about is the second point in time, not the first point in time. Okay? And so that was an additional confusion. Teresa testified that she added their name at Tyrene's request and removed their name as Tyrene's request, and you showed her letters from SB to her saying, we no longer have an arrangement with Bibby. Subsequently, there was a dispute. You and I talked about it, about some money that was being held and who it belonged to. And because you couldn't convince me there was a valid assignment or notice of it, those monies were paid to SB. So I think you need to clarify what he's testified about is the second round, not the first instance.
There was no first and second instance.
Well, you see, and that's what we're not sure of, because there were checks, the name was removed. Bibby's name was removed 2 separate occasions. So I need you to clarify what you're talking about. Are you talking about ultimately the last few checks that you and I talked about?
Something is going very strange here because
Okay,
there
tell
was no second removal. There was payments from the beginning to Bibby, beginning in 2007,
Right.
all the way through August of 2008.
Right.
And then, apparently in September, Tyrone, or what, according to McGinnis, said she told me to remove Bibby, and she removed Bibby, and from that point going forward, payments were made directly by the district to
You're right.
SB.
That's right.
There's no first and second here.
Okay, okay, you're right, and I phrase it, I'm sorry, I phrase it incorrectly. You're right about that. Our discussion would have been, there were some additional checks that were being held when you and I started talking about who they belonged to. And I don't know if you were asking him about his involvement in the final decision of who that money would go to, or were you talking about when Teresa removed Bibby? So I'll withdraw the objection, but there's confusion in his mind as to which time frame you're talking about.
We'll go back and cover it over.
Okay,
I'm
so
okay
I'll
with
withdraw
that.
the objection, and let's clarify that, please.
Okay. In connection with your fact-finding inquiry, as part of that inquiry, did you determine that at some point in or about August, September 2008, Teresa McGinnis caused Bibby to be removed as a payee and payments being made directly to SB for services provided by SB to Glendale Unified School District?
And I don't recall how that part of the process happened exactly. So there was a final.
He's asking about
yeah,
that time frame.
right.
Let's stick with his question.
Yeah, okay.
Do you recall that occurring in that time frame?
Yeah,
Do you want the question read back?
yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Let's just hear it again.
In connection with your fact-finding inquiry, as part of that inquiry, did you determine that at some point in or about August, September of 2008, Teresa McGinnis caused Bibby to be removed as a payee and payments being made directly to SB for services provided by SB to Glendale Unified School District?
Can I say yes or no?
yes.
Did you become aware of that?
Yes, I became aware of that. So.
And after Mr. Lee came to you, and there were, for example, Exhibit 34 to the deposition of Mr. Lee, the letter of September 17, 2008, and the email of October 20th, 2008, when Mr. Lee came to you, did you, on behalf of Glendale Unified School District, make a decision that from that point going forward, that payments for services provided by SB Security and Patrol to GUSD would continue to be made to SB directly?
He's asking if you made that decision.
I made the decision. There were some checks held when we started investigating that were to SB Security, and I made the decision for GUSD to go ahead and let those checks and make final payment to SB based on the advice of my attorney.
But and again, for clarification, on behalf of Glendale Unified School District, the decision to release those payments directly to SB for services provided to the district, that was, you were the ultimate decision maker for the district?
Yes.
And you made that decision after reviewing, among other documents, Exhibit 34, correct?
I don't remember what time frame I saw those particular letters, but I have seen those letters.
Okay.
So.
To the best of your recollection, in your fact-finding inquiry, did you review, among other documents, Exhibit 34 before making the ultimate decision to release checks and final payments directly to SB for services provided by SB to the district?
I can't let him answer any questions as to the reason for the decision because it is inextricably linked to my advice to him.
I'm not asking for the reasons.
But you're asking him, did he make the decision as a result of reviewing this? It's going to
No,
you're going to the heart of his
that's not
decision-making process.
I apologize.
Yeah.
It's not my question.
Well,
All my question is, and I'll repeat it, is did you review, take a look at, among other documents, Exhibit 34, before making your decision to release payments and final payments directly to SB for services provided by SB to GUSD?
Yes or no, if you reviewed it, you can answer that.
Yeah.
He's asking all of these pages if you reviewed it. He asked you previously about his letter
Right.
alone, so
Yes.
look through it and make sure that you've reviewed it.
And that's
or
what
recall it.
I know that I have seen some of these documents and that I saw some of these documents before making the decision, yes.
When you say some of these documents, you're referring to some of the documents in Exhibit 34.
Correct.
And can you tell me, in looking at Exhibit 34, which documents had you seen before making your decision to release payments directly to SB?
Hold
I'm
on one
not
second.
sure of the
Can you read
time
that back?
frame. Yeah.
Sorry, can you read it back, please?
Can you tell me, in looking at Exhibit 34, which documents had you seen before making your decision to release payments directly to SB?
Okay, if you know, go ahead.
Yeah. In what time frame, I don't know. I recognize some of these. I don't know in which time frame. So which I saw before or after, if that's your question, I don't know. I've seen some of these documents. I don't recall the time frame.
Okay. Did you make a determination in your fact-finding inquiry with Mike Lee that GUSD had in its documents a written notice from Bibby Financial that it had received an assignment of receivables from SB?
I know that we'd received communications from Bibby. I know that he talked about, some of those talked about assignment, but could you read the question back so I understand exactly?
Please.
Yeah.
Do you make a determination in your fact-finding inquiry with Mike Lee that GUSD had in its documents a written note from Bibby Financial that it had received an assignment of receivables from SB?
It's yes or no if you know. Did you make that determination?
See, the question is the determination. I can't determine whether an assignment was made, but yes, I knew of documents claiming that there was an assignment.
Okay. Yeah,
But I can't make a determination.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just to be clear, for the record, I'm not asking whether you made a determination whether in fact an actual assignment was made. I'm not asking you that question.
Okay.
What
That's
I'm
good.
asking you is, did you determine that there was a written notice from Bibby Financial that identified that in Bibby's position that an assignment had been made of SB receivables to Bibby?
Yes.
I think you answered that, though. You
I
answered that.
Right.
You can read back the answer to that question.
I'm trying to clarify. Was that your? Did you actually make
I
that
know
determination?
there were documents saying where Bibby was claiming there was an assignment.
Did you see in your fact-finding inquiry with Mike Lee, did you identify any documents that were signed by SB and Bibby where there was notice of an assignment of accounts receivable? Did you see any of those documents?
That's yes or no if you recall.
I don't recall right offhand.
If you can take a look at Exhibit 34, the third page. Do you see this document, which is bait stamp 55 at the bottom?
I've seen this document. I don't know at what time
Wait
I
for the
saw that
question.
document. Yeah.
He just asked, is it in front of you?
Oh yes, I'm sorry.
To the best of your recollection, did you see bait stamp 55 in Exhibit 34 before you made a decision to release funds directly to SB and pay off SB its final payment for services provided by SB to GUSD?
I believe there are two questions there. I've seen the document, and I don't recall the time frame that I've seen the document in.
Yeah, that's right.
To the best of your knowledge, did you complete your fact-finding inquiry, you and Mike Lee, before making a decision to release funds to SB for services being provided by SB to GUSD?
We collected,
That's yes or no?
yes.
Okay. Did you have any discussions, you or Mike Lee, directly with Michelle Daniel, Mike Knott, or anyone else from SB in connection with your fact-finding inquiry?
I called Michelle Daniels.
Okay. And who was on the phone when you called her?
Just myself.
And what was, do you know when you called Michelle Daniels?
I don't recall.
And what did you say to Michelle Daniels, and what did she say to you, to the best of your recollection?
I said, Michelle, there seems to be a problem here. We don't know who this company is. We don't know what they're doing. What's going on with this? Why is there a problem? And she said to me that it was that she didn't know much about Bibby, and that her father, Michael Daniels, was doing all of the exchange with Bibby.
Michael Knott.
Michael Knott, yeah, Michael Knott, sorry.
And did you ever speak to Michael Knott?
I tried to speak to Michael Knott in that initial fact-finding time when we were trying to figure it out. I could not get a hold of Michael Knott. He did not return my calls. Then
You
later,
answer.
yes.
At some point, did you have a communication with Michael Knott?
Later, Michael Knott called me trying to tell me that he wanted the final payments to SB, and I told him that he needed to talk to the lawyer, our counsel.
Is that the total extent of your communications with Mike Knott?
That's the total extent.
And what about, is that the total extent of communications with Michelle Daniel relating to this?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ever speak to Tyrone Eaton?
I did speak to Tyrone.
And was this around the same time period?
During fact-finding, yes.
Was this in person or on the phone?
I probably spoke with Tyrone 2 or 3 times.
Was any of them in person?
I'm sure, yes. Yes.
Okay. Was anybody else present during these conversations?
No.
And where were they held?
I don't recall.
And where, and what was said by you and what was said by Tyrone in these 2 to 3 discussions that you had?
I asked her who was Bibby, what was going on, why was there a problem. She told me that basically all the relationship with Bibby was handled by the SB office through Michelle and Michael Knott.
To the best of your recollection, did Tyrone say anything else to you?
No, that was the crux of the conversation.
At some point in time, did you receive a letter from Mike Knott addressed to you?
Not that I recall.
If you go to Exhibit 1, pages 39 and 40, please. Actually, it's 39 through 44. For the record, pages 39 through 44 appears to be a letter on the letterhead of SB Security and Patrol dated November 5th, 2008, addressed to Dr. Scott Price, Glendale Unified School District. If you can just take a moment and take a look at that, and then I have some questions for you.
sorry, this 44, he said, it's just an attachment.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Have you reviewed pages 39 or skimmed through 39 to 44 of Exhibit 1?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall ever receiving this letter from SB, from Mr. Knott?
I did not recall, though. I see it now. Any communication that would have come from Mr. Knott, I just would have forwarded to our counsel at that time frame.
Okay. As you sit here today, do you actually recall receiving this November 5th, 2008 letter?
I have seen this before, yes.
Okay. Did you at any time request from Mr. Knott a letter of indemnification to the district?
I don't remember. I don't recall ever asking him to do that.
Do you know if Mr. Lee ever requested Mr. Knott to provide a letter of indemnification?
I don't think Mr. Lee, no, I don't.
Okay. It says we are writing as requested. Do you see that in the first line?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
I see that in the first line. Yes.
I just, for the record, when you say mm-hmm, I have
I'm
to
sorry,
follow
yes,
that up.
That's fine. Yes, I see that in the first line.
And does that refresh your recollection as to making a request to Mr. Knott that you wanted some assurance as to indemnifying Glendale if Glendale USD was going to release monies to SB?
Yeah, and I
That's yes or
I
no?
don't
Does it
recall.
refresh your
I
mind?
don't recall.
Did you ever contact anyone at Bibby Financial to make a fact-finding inquiry?
I know at one time Mike Lee and I had a conversation with Sue Mosher.
Okay, M-O-S-H-E-R, Mosher?
Yes.
And was that just one conversation?
I only recall having one.
Okay, and this was by telephone?
Yes.
And other than Sue Mosher, Mike Lee, and you, was anybody else present in this conversation?
Not that I recall.
Can you tell me, to the best of your knowledge, what was said by you and what was said by Mr. Lee and what was said by Ms. Mosher?
As best as I can recall, I said, Mike, let's call Bibby and see what it is. And we talked of different invoices and that, and the call.
Question was, what did you say? What did she say?
Yeah. So we called, asked Sue, what is this about? She said, well, we don't think we've been paid for invoices. And I said, well, we think we have. And she said, well, we don't think you have. And we both said we'd do more investigation into the incident.
Why did you say to Ms. Mosher that you thought you had paid her for invoices?
Because we went back and looked at checks and looked at billings that we'd received from SB, and they matched.
For all payment, I mean, for all invoices?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that we had, yes.
Okay. And when you said you'll go back and check, did you go back and check whether all invoices actually had been paid to Bibby Financial?
Well, I asked Mike to go ahead and finish doing that and looking at the invoices once again to see if there were any discrepancies between our checks and the invoices that we'd received from SB.
Did you make a determination as to whether the SB invoices matched with the invoices provided by Bibby Financial?
I asked Mike.
Yes or no, did you make a determination?
Okay, can you read the question again, please? I'm sorry.
Did you make a determination as to whether the SB invoices matched with the invoices provided by Bibby Financial?
We made a determination that they were different.
Okay. Did you inform Sue Mosher of this?
I asked Mike Lee to tell Sue Mosher that.
We are back on the record, and the time is 12:12 p.m.
When you said that there was a bigger problem here that she should check into, what was the bigger problem you were referring to?
The invoices did not match.
Did you, in your fact-finding inquiry, did you make an inquiry as to why there appeared to be the invoices were not matching?
No.
Yes or no?
Did you ever ask Tyrone Eaton why there was a discrepancy with the invoices?
No.
Did you ever ask Michelle Daniels why there was a discrepancy?
Yes.
And did Michelle Daniel answer?
Michelle said that she was not the one handling the Bibby relationship.
Okay. Did you ever ask Mike Knott as to why there was a discrepancy?
I tried to get a hold of Michael Knott. I could not.
Did you ever find out why there was a discrepancy?
No.
In your discussion with Sue Mosher, did Sue Mosher tell you that notwithstanding the invoices that Bibby had that all receivables of SB had been assigned to Bibby?
I don't recall.
Did GUSD ever receive a written indemnification from SB in connection with this issue?
I don't recall.
Before making the final decision with respect to releasing final monies to SB for services provided by SB and not to Bibby, did you seek approval or input from anyone else at GUSD?
No.
At the time of making the decision to release monies and final monies to SB for services provided by SB to GUSD and not to Bibby, did you believe that you were required to seek board approval before making that decision?
No.
Did you have any understanding as to whether board approval was necessary in connection with payments being made to Bibby as a payee for services provided by SB to the district?
You mean at this point in time?
At any time.
Okay, can you read it again?
Did you have any understanding as to whether board approval was necessary in connection with payments being made to Bibby as a payee for services provided by SB to the district?
I followed the advice of counsel in the matter regarding payment.
Could you read the question? That's not my question, sir. Sally, if you could reread the question, please.
Did you have any understanding as to whether board approval was necessary in connection with payments being made to Bibby as a payee for services provided by SB to the district?
Oh, there was no need.
Okay. Do you know the final amount of money that was released by GUSD directly to SB?
I don't recall.
Did you ever make an inquiry directly to Bibby Financial as to whether they in fact had an assignment of all of the receivables of SB?
Only the phone conversation. No, not in regards to that question.
Okay. I don't think I have any other questions. Let me propose a step.
Sure.
Let me propose the following stipulation: that the court reporter be relieved of her duty under the applicable code of civil procedure, that the original of this transcript will be sent to Mr. Minion's office, where Mr. Minion will arrange to have Dr. Price read and review his transcript, make any changes or corrections, and sign the deposition under penalty of perjury, that within 30 days of Mr. Minion's receipt, if my office is not notified that the transcript has been signed and of any changes or corrections, an unsigned certified copy can be used in lieu of the original in connection with any hearing, motion, and at trial, that the original shall be maintained by Mr. Manion upon reasonable request will be lodged in connection with any hearing or motion, and without request will be lodged at the time of trial.
So, Sylvia, before we go off, I think I withdrew all of my objection. Was there any issue remaining? I withdrew them all from what I recall.
I don't believe so. I think we're good.
Okay, and so stipulated.
All right. This is the end of tape in Disc 1, Volume 1,
make
and the
sure.
end of
Oh, you already got it.
the videotape deposition of Scott Price, Ph.D. The DVD master of today's testimony will be in the custody and care of Charles Heller and Company. We're going off the record, and the time is 12:18 p.m.